Hello.
Now, can you hear us, Brian?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear now.
Okay. All right, everyone, it's 6:30 and I'd like to call the June board meeting to order. I'd like to welcome our new director, Clay Murray. Welcome, Clay.
Thank you.
Also welcome all the attendants. In addition, I'd like to publicly thank all the Decatur County REMC employees and the additional support help from the other REMCs on their diligent work to get the lights back on for all its members. Outstanding job, guys. Thank you very much. All right. With that said, I think we'll go ahead and start out with the agenda.
I have a item I'd like to add, and it can be under for your information if it needs to be. But the election is being contested for District 5 and District 6. And I think all directors should be on copy of that letter. So I'd like it to be added to the meeting agenda and called to order.
Okay. So that all the directors
Have what the concerns are.
anything else?
I also have an addition to the agenda, and it's my fault. I didn't get it to staff in time, but I do intend, if you guys agree, to still talk about allowing members to attend without calling ahead. Remember I mentioned that last
Yeah,
meeting.
you do.
So I'll make a formal motion if you guys are okay with it at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
You guys
So
will
we'll
do
just
it.
place it toward the end. Anything else? I need a motion with the changes.
I'll make a motion with the changes.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay. In the for your information then section, does anybody have any things that to ask about? Fine.
On the open action item, I would like the one that's from August of 28 on cash flow. I would like the opportunity to sit down with Brett and Matt and go over my findings. That's been pending since August. If they're available sometime next week, that would be great.
That's the first item that appears there, correct, Jeff?
Pardon?
That's the first item that appears there on the list.
Yes, yes.
Anybody have anything else? All right, Brett. Take a minute, a moment.
I did that. All right, so first thing on cool moments. So as you guys know, the June storm outage that we had over the weekend. I'd also like to thank the employees' families. We had quite a few co-op friends, first responders, and volunteers who helped. It was sort of amazing to see. You can see the picture up here. It's one that we posted on Facebook also. That was the Osgood Fire Department at a set of breakers, basically close to at the time, a river, and helped us get through that. We had a lot of chainsaws on a tree that's about the size of a car laying on the road. Tore down our stuff also. Neighbors joined in and helped us get through some of those. So appreciate that. We had 10 Facebook posts during the outage to give updates. That resulted in about almost 49,000 impressions. And if you know what an impression is in Facebook, that's a bunch. So our postings were being seen. And then last, it was a fantastic effort by our team, I believe. We had our dispatch and planning and just doing the execution of Pat and his team, dispatching crews, the communication efforts. And again, the wonderful support really made that go over really, really well. So that's a cool moment. A safety moment I thought was good this month is we received a call from a member, and what they were asking is they stopped so we have folks that we call scouting. Actually, I was a scouter for a little bit, but we also have like Brian Keith, a couple of our employees that actually do what we call scouting. So they go out in front of the crews, they put eyes on what we see. So is it a tree? Is it we're going to need a 40-foot pole? What is it? Well, one of these scouters was stopped by a member, and rightfully so, the member just said, "Hey, there's a blown fuse. I see it here at the transformer. Can you go ahead and do that?" And the employee basically said, "I can't do that. I'm not qualified to put that in." So I thought I'd take the opportunity as to why the scouters, everyone has a role during an outage, and just because it's an REMC truck with an REMC employee doesn't mean they're qualified to do some jobs. Basically what the member was saying was, I was told by an employee that person couldn't put the fuse in, and 2 hours later, another employee came and put the fuse in. Legit, good question, right? So our outage restoration process is very detailed. It's planned, it's targeted. We look at restoring the greatest number of meters first. And then we work our way around the system. It's extremely important that we've designed, trained individuals running out our lines to find the problems and issues for the lineman to repair, restore power. Trees or lines could be down further down the line and not be known, and it could cause a fatality. So in that instance, that scouter couldn't put that fuse in, number one, because he doesn't have the training equipment to do it. Number two, there could be a tree down somewhere else and you put that fuse in, somebody's on that tree, guess what happens? So there are rules that we have to follow and sequences we have to take during an outage. Thought that was important. Last, linemen, groundmen, engineers, meter techs, CEO, et cetera, all have specific training and capabilities. There are limitations to what certain roles can do. We'll never jeopardize the safety of our employees, members, or community in order to restore an outage faster. We always operate safety without any compromises. And then again, I understand being without electricity is frustrating, it's difficult, and we strive to do our best work and efficiency. One thing I thought was a cool number is, I'm proud, and I'm sure all employees are proud. We restored over 4,000 meters. And the reason this one was very, very unique is that was made compromised of 200 unique outages. Typically, if you see a 4,000 outage, you're talking maybe 100 unique outages, because one outage could include 1,000 members. In this scenario, what this tells you is that we had a lot of singles, right? So what I consider a single is we have to drive 15 miles, run out a bunch of line to turn on one member. And we had a ton of those, and that was what really made this unique. But we were able to do this within 48 hours time span, and we had 0 injuries and 0 incidents. So again, just kind of a test to the process worked really well. That was my safety minute.
Thank you.
I had something. I want to add something. I really appreciate getting that. That was the first time I've been on the board 2 years to get text updates. And I really appreciate that, just, being surrounded by the events and the other people that are all looking at me going, what's going on? I'm like, look on Facebook. I don't know what to tell you. So I really appreciate getting individual text and eliminate me having to call or stop threat from individuals calling me, wanting to know what they should do with their hours of operation on businesses. So thank you for the.
Yeah, we did hear.
Updated.
We did hear that. So estimated time of restoral is very hard. And the reason is a lineman can come up on 20 miles of line, sees a tree, right? Cleans the tree up, fixes the line. And at that point, what they're instructed to do, right, is move the grounds offline and ride the rest of the line out, because there could be another tree down on the line. So they've got to ride those lines out. Well, let's just say they fix the first tree, they head down, and on mile 19, there's another tree. And this one it's more difficult. It's a bigger tree. So it's really, really hard to do estimated time of restorals. And the only way you can really do it effectively is you have to, we think this is an hour, so we're going to say 8 hours. Well, that doesn't do a whole lot of good for our members either. So this time our go around, we did an SOP, we did a CI event a year ago. It was really focused around, here's where our crews are at. Thinking if I'm in Batesville and there's crews that are all over in St. Paul, probably not going to see my power on shortly. So that was the idea. That we got a lot of really good feedback. My goal, Suzanne, was every 2 hours to get you guys a text. I missed it a few times.
Just getting a text was appreciated. I appreciate that.
Good deal.
Explain the difference between working the unique outages and just outages.
Yep, good question. Good question. So there's two types of things. So an outage is how many members off, right? So that's how many meters do you have down? A unique outage basically looks at how many circuits or groups are actually out. So what matters to a lineman, I shouldn't say they don't care how many members are out, but what they care about is how many unique outages are there. So in other words, we could have 1,000 folks off in one unique outage. In other words, it happened back at the sub. It's got 1,000 people. We send one crew out on that outage, 20-minute fix. We put 1,000 people. Or you can have 1,000 people out and 30 unique outages. That means they got to go touch 30 different areas in our system, which makes a big difference. And that is one thing that was, I've been here 4.5 years. It's the second major storm we've had, right? The ice storm was the first. This one was much more unique in the fact that there was a lot more unique outages. In other words, there's a lot of, we're going to go here to pick up one or two, got to go here to pick up one or two. And of course, those are usually at the end, right? You're going to prioritize by 3-phase, closest to the sub, biggest amount of members to put on. And then you're going to work your way out. And then you lost Friday night, because basically what happened was, as you guys know, it stormed all night Friday night. And it got to the point where the guys were sitting 20 feet in the air. It's pouring down rain. They can't see their hand in front of their face, and lightning's all around them. Their feet are at 6 inches of water in their bucket, or however many inches it is. And so we didn't get a lot of work done on Friday just because of that. We're dealing with the elements. And you lose an entire night. We lost from about 3 a.m. till 8 o'clock in the morning because of that weather. That's a big difference. That's make or break when it comes to that. Did I answer your question?
Oh, yeah, I was explaining to other people.
All right, let's go to the minutes. Need a motion for the approval of. The first and the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we're ready for the election of officers. Robert, I think you have the office.
I think the first office will be the chairperson. Balance around, but first, does anyone want to nominate a person to take the office?
I'll nominate Jeff Lawrence for chairman.
I'll second that.
Any other nominations?
Neil working.
I'll second that.
Just so you know, I think everybody, so we're clear, the bylaws state that it shall be by secret ballot. And so I think we've understood that the non-present member can text me and I look at the ballots. You guys have all been here when we've done this. I look at the ballots and count them and take them to my office and throw them out. We have 2 nominations. Any others, or do we want to move to close? Second for that. So if you would mark it and hold it and. Okay, we have a 4-4 tie. So as we've done in the past, we will go around and pass them around again. We could do it maybe a couple more times and then decide if we want to discuss other options. So let's at least do it one more time and then. 4-4 tie again.
I would propose that we hold off on the elections for a month and let Steve be the acting chairman, Brian being the active secretary. Do I need to make that a motion?
Yes.
I would like to make that motion.
Just clarify, you're saying all the elections?
Yes.
I think the bylaws allow for that.
Do we have any discussion? Yes, I would ask members what will change between now and next doors.
Maybe nothing. Maybe an opportunity for people to talk.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say. I need clarification on the ayes again, please.
Aye.
Okay. Hold off on remainder of the elections.
Okay.
That was your motion.
Correct.
And
I would ask that those two candidates either submit in writing to us or verbally tell us why they think they need to be the chairperson. And you can either do that tonight or you can do that before the next meeting.
I would prefer to do it in writing next.
Okay.
Want that to Steve or to the board? That's Steve.
Yeah, send it to Steve and then he can distribute it.
want me to distribute them at the same time. And that's
Yeah, that'd be fair. That's what we've done in the past, when we tie. Give them an opportunity to speak. So if we're gonna punt,
I remember the Korean one other time and.
Yeah. if we're gonna punt till next month, give them a chance to do that still.
You guys.
One thing you guys also may want to consider is if the next election is the same way and it's 4-4, not having an odd number of board members makes that a possibility. You may want to resolve on some way to decide that. There's not anything specifically in bylaws, Robert's Rules of Order don't really directly address it. But if you want to resolve it, really one of the total options is to, casting lots or flipping a coin or doing something like pure luck.
Fire.
I know it sounds silly, but if that does happen, you guys may want to discuss how you would want to resolve it.
It stays 4-4 as the current chairman, the chairman for the next year.
Is until the elections.
Until the elections fail.
Okay, Brad.
So a couple updates. We did finish, Crystal finished the security project up front. We're pretty much finished. That was our priority 2 project for the year. And then I put an article in your board packet, and this is something all RMCs are going to deal with, but it brings to light maybe a project that we need to complete soon, which could be to incentivize folks to get rid of paper bills. So effective August 30th, postage rates are going to increase, obviously impacting our budget. I don't know what that looks like from our NISC, who we use for posting. They do give bulk pricing and things like that, but it is something that's coming down the line. We send out a lot of these, so maybe a project or something we could bring up to take a look at incentivizing some other manner to get more people to not have to send a bill to. So I put the article in there, take a look at that. Management is summarizing our findings from, we did have our operation review a couple weeks ago. It went really well. It was about a half day. We went over all of our metrics, really good discussions. We got a summary of that. We're combining that with all of our member immersion events that we did. And so all of that data is going to go over to Brian Singletary, and Brian's going to be obviously our facilitator for strategic planning. I'm going to get him that data, and then that'll probably start some discussion on what the timeline looks like, because we're going to have a half-day vision and then a 2.5-day strategic planning that we need to do based upon that. There's a lot of work that needs to be completed before those two things as far as surveys and stuff like that, but just kind of giving you a heads up of where we're at. So we've made a lot of progress on the planning for strategic plan this next year or this year. As far as our metrics, stand over here. So if you look at May, so with everything that went on with the outage, it's kind of hard to think back to May, especially with just June's warmer, it seems like. Back in May, though, we were a little cooler. So 61 was the average, with our 5-year average being 64. So we're quite a bit, about 5.7% cooler than our 5-year average. But then if you look at the cooling degree days, we're down about 28% from our 5-year average. But then if you look at May, when it comes to heating degree days, we were just a tick above. So we were cooler. Nobody was using their air conditioners. More people were using their heat. That's kind of what you get out of it. Then you look at, so straight from our Fusion bill, our purchased energy per kWh and our demand, which is kW. This is May right here. So right where my dot's at is the 5-year average. This is the green line. So it's just a tick below. Same thing with demand. This is the 5-year average where my pointer's at. That was May, so it's just a tick below. So, but basically flat. So if you look at purchased energy, purchased demand, not the budget, just what we purchased on a 5-year average, pretty flat. This is going to look a whole lot different next month, but we'll go over what we got now. We, as of 6/4, we had nothing that met what we call TMED, which is a major storm. You can see we've actually been pretty flat in May that we're specifically talking about. It was really, really flat. It was really quiet in May, honestly. June's different. And then the last thing is our 30 and 60, 90-day AR. So we talk about this a lot just because it's an indication of where we're at on past due. AR is account receivable. So we measured in a 30-day and we measured in a 90-day. That's the short-term, long-term. Crystal's team is kicking butt on these metrics. If you see May here, well under. So this is the 5-year average where my dot's at. Here's May. So we're about half of what our 5-year average is for 30-day. So I don't know what you're doing to keep it up. I think some of it has to do with prepay, possibly. And then our 90-day AR, if you look at May again, where my dot's at is the 5-year average, and this is where May was. So again, about actually a little less than half. 30, 90 days look good. I'm going to hand it over to Matt. Actually, I'm going to go over project updates.
Before you leave this.
Yep.
Industrials and transmission seem to be trending wrong direction. What does key counts like working with them? Like, is this all part of the parts deal?
It is. So I don't know the names. Yes, every one of them has to do with part shortages. It's interesting though, because it's not necessarily part shortages. It's the fact that a lot of them are automotive. So they have plenty of parts to make parts, but they're not getting the invoice. They're not getting the orders. And that's what's slowing them down.
Because they're all, it looks like they're all starting to be affected now.
Yep. Yep. So yes, our key accounts has been talking to them. I've been talking to them. It's completely related to just shortages, but specifically in the automotive, they're not getting the orders because production and forward production on all those requirements. So to answer your question. And I've been asking, what's that look like as far as ramping back up? No one knows. When I ask that question, I basically get told if I had the answer to that, so no one really knows when it's going to bounce back, but they're definitely way off of where we expected them to be from a budget standpoint. But as you're going to see in some of his financials, power costs is always down, right? So it's not necessarily a bad thing for gross margins. Any other questions on what I just went over? And you'll see some more graphs, Jason, once I get that. So from a project standpoint, I want to hit a few up. So front lobby, we just talked about, that's a completed project. Pole replacement program. So PSE is done with, they're actually in there. So they're done with all the field work. They've got all their bids out now. So the idea is they were going to start construction around July, first week of July, second week of July. We're still on track for that. So right now they're basically sending out bids. It's kind of where we're at on pole replacements. The construction work plan projects, so the three big projects, they're doing field work. So you will see PSE out in the field. Basically, they're doing kind of their field assessment. We require them to have Decatur County contractor of Decatur County REMC on the side of their cars, so you will see those folks out and about. The idea is that they'll be bidding by the end of July, with construction slated to start in August. Vision and strategic planning, I kind of just went over that. Basically, we're summarizing everything we've done over the since January. We'll be handing that over to Brian, who's going to be our facilitator. We'll schedule some meetings coming up. And then last is Project 8. This is deals with Crystal's area. It's the IT security and lifecycle management. We did get a couple things done. So if you ever heard of PCI compliance, it's a compliance that we have to follow for paper credit cards. We implemented a few changes on that, which have to do with bank draft. We are getting ready to do two-factor authentication. I can't say that. And password protect. So we'll have to get a text to put our number in there. But those are three good things when it comes to PCI compliance. PCI compliance is a big deal because we do take credit card numbers and things like that. So we want to protect our members' information. Any other questions on projects? If not, I'm going to hand it over to Matt. You want this, or you want me just to be visual?
So our net utility plant hasn't changed much. Total current crude assets are a little bit higher. They're the only one that's got any real change. Yours is higher due to higher cash balance and higher prepaid amounts. Current equity is 65.37%. From a balance sheet standpoint, everything else is pretty much not a lot of activity in the month. Okay, next is the operating statement. Our revenue is down, as was discussed, and along with that, our power costs are down as well. Our industrials are having issues getting parts. In general, our margins have been maintained, which the difference there, from what I understand, should narrow some as the power tracker will follow the cost of the revenue and the cost will follow each other. Controllable expenses, majority of that is right away. We don't have bills yet, and it hasn't been done yet. So the clearing in the trees and whatnot. Last, the non-operating income expense, that's the same as last month. Most of the difference there is due to the income tax estimated payment, $9,000. Any questions on any of those two? Or? Next is the cash flow summary. We have $2,700,000 $51,000 in cash, which is $228,000 more than last month. In general, it's higher this month than timing and stuff and just how things go. Not making a huge difference. Our sales of electricity, as we said, are down compared to prior year. And our power cost is down along with that. Gross margins are pretty close to where they were, pretty close to the budget. I mean, they're a little bit higher, but not off by a whole lot. And our gross margin and cumulative year to date are pretty much right in line with what we expected. So not a lot of excitement in the month of May compared to what June will have. Let's see. Have our different graphs based off of what's sold by each class. In general, most everything is pretty close to budget to a hair under, or all hair under, I guess, from a budgeted variance. And as we said, that's the parts on the industrials. The others are actually improved a little bit over the prior month. The residential last month was 2.5 under. Now it's 1.5 under. The commercial was 2.9 under. Now it's 1.8. And let's see, that would be the industrials are a little bit worse, and the IPT is quite a bit lower. It was actually ahead until this past month. So as a total, it's a little bit off compared. Last month was 1.24% under. Now we're 1.51 under. So we're losing. We lost ground in the industrials and IPT this past month.
But on your industrials, all the margins are off of the demand side. So if they run 30 minutes a month, we're going to make our profit, correct?
Generally, yeah.
So the fluctuation in KWH for industrial really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would say yeah.
I'm still learning all that.
No, you're fine. I just wanted to
To be honest, that's I'm starting to get that down.
Yeah.
So, the revenues by class, they're fairly budget versus what it is. It's pretty well right on the money. There's really nothing major different there. Gross margin by class, as you can see, it's pretty much very close to in line with the budget.
Jeff, a comment on that too. The ratchets hit a lot more than we've seen in the past too. So there is a ratchet in the industrial tariff where if your demand is down more than forget what it exactly is, but more than a certain percentage, then you get ratcheted back up. So that's kicked in more than I've seen as far as industrial side.
This is the controllable expenses by department. It's just a little high. Maintenance is low. Maintenance is low due to right of way. Operations and maintenance are pretty much the same. They're the lineman crews. Billing and member services and corporate relations should stay the same pretty well throughout the remainder of the year. Admin in general will be a hair low because I didn't come until partway through the year.
This outage, this restoration, are we talking I mean, I know it's a six-figure deal, or are we talking?
You would hit that.
I did some rough back of the napkin calculations today, and I looked at the stuff from the outage in 18 to try to get an idea of what it cost. And I think it's going to be around $90,000, give or take 5 or 10. Don't hold me to that yet because I did that this afternoon and I'm still, that's my rough estimate.
That's all.
Jenny told me she thought I was fairly close. So that made me feel like.
I think we kind of threw that $100,000 number around in that ice storm outage that time.
Yeah, it's the tough thing right now is we're going through, so number one, we haven't been invoiced by obviously other co-ops, right? We got an idea what that's gonna be. Materials are tough, right? So the way that this works is we have a crew from the outside come in, they take log of whatever materials they use off their truck. And then they submit that to us so that we know what materials, and then basically Eric will reconcile our inventory. And so that is being worked. And so from a material standpoint, that can fluctuate quite a bit. I think the manning and that isn't that hard to estimate. It's the materials that are gonna be the tough part.
And it was 2 days ago they got done. So
Yeah. Well, I knew it'd be guessed.
It's not a $500,000.
Yeah, right.
So they take inventory and we replenish what they use from our inventory?
Correct.
well, we pay them, we don't sell it.
Well, it depends on what it is.
Really?
Yeah. So for like, I'm talking small things like, what do you call it? Like grommets and things like that. If there's a transformer or pole, they don't have those on their trucks.
Right.
So they can come back and get those. Those are the big things. I'm talking nuts, poles, connectors, wire they'd come back here for. So the major items are taken out of our inventory. The smaller items they take out of their truck. Fuse is a good example.
Those are peanuts compared to.
Very peanuts compared to. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But even poles, Clay, on that one, I mean, so right now we got to reconcile how many did we take out of the pile, right? Because during a storm, you're not scanning barcodes and taking stuff out of inventory, you're going. So what we do is Eric will go back and count how many did we have, how many we got now, and reconcile some of that. So we can estimate some of that, and that's what Matt did on that 90 grand, but it's hard to tell until you get all the numbers in. But it's not a $500,000 type thing.
Anybody else? Questions from financial?
The next month, we'll see how close my guess was.
That's going to be the test.
Find out that. All right, let's go on to the next topic, the cost of service scope. I know we talked about this last meeting, and Jeff, I think you sent it in mail earlier today.
Correct. Listing 5 different consultants. And I do not support using Larry Feltner's fund group.
Reason being,
Mistakes made in the previous cost of service study.
who decided that they were mistakes? The concerns that you had with that cost of service study and the mistakes that you accused him of, we had a meeting here with him to explain those and you did not participate. Right?
You are correct.
What are you passing out, Jeff?
I'm passing out my summaries of what I find wrong with our rates. And again,
I don't think we really need to talk about them right now.
we don't, but you guys can take them home, study, and call me if you got questions.
On the email list that Jeff presented, besides Larry Feltner, have the other consultant firms been used in past?
Brett had sent out her email earlier as well, and
It's under that second.
I got you here, thank you.
Brett responded to Jeff's email today, said we were familiar with all of them. They're all reputable.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
They're reputable.
I have no problem with pricing it out. I think we should do that. But just to say that you didn't agree with Larry Feltner, so therefore we can't use him, I don't know if I agree with that.
And that's fine. But I would recommend, Dale, you'd asked about averages and he told you that he didn't use averages. I believe if you look on page, I think it's 14 of the cost of service study.
I don't remember ever specifically asking about averages, me personally.
Okay, I stand corrected then, but I believe,
Question of averages came up, but I never specifically.
I believe there was averages used on small commercial, medium commercial, large commercial, and LCP. And you can see that on attachment C of the cost of service.
The meeting that we had with Larry Felker where only the 5 of us participated, I believe,
No, that was correct.
okay, was that recorded?
Yeah.
So that question exactly was answered at that meeting. So maybe that needs to be reviewed again.
I don't remember what averages you're talking about. I can tell you that rates are built on averages. That's how you have to do it. You look at loads, everybody's load is above and below averages, but you have to use an average to, rates are built on, otherwise you'd have 6,500 rates. So, but that might not be the average we're talking about. I don't know. But that question was asked. I do remember.
Well, I have an issue with, this guy's got 30 plus years of experience. And I'm not saying we have to use him. I don't care who we use, but this guy's been doing this for 30 some years and we're basically accusing him of doing it incorrectly. We ask him questions and present an opportunity to ask those questions and for him to answer them in this room that you raised, and then you chose not to participate. So if you still had questions, you had the opportunity to ask him. But now you didn't do that, and now, well,
Actually, I paid out of my pocket so I could get the questions
You did.
I had answered, and they were answered.
But you didn't like the answer?
No, I know what the answers are.
So that whole exercise of Larry Feltner coming here was staged. There was no need to do that then. Because you
I believe, no, I personally believe that we have subsidies within our commercial rates.
that, again, that's your personal opinion. That's way different than saying there were mistakes made.
It also shows, if you look at the Hoosier Energy rate comparison, 2019, our large commercial is $500 below average of everyone else. And that's 18 REMC.
It's how you calculate the averages.
We've been through this
That's fine.
many times.
And I just have one opinion and one vote. So
Brett, we listed the Prime Group has done this 3 or 4 times in the past several years. Was Larry the one that was?
Yeah, from Prime?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Larry's so just to kind of put a spin on this a little bit here is Larry from Feltner Group does a lot of the Hoosier system. So does Guernsey. So both of those two, they do a lot of Indiana. So they know Hoosier's rates really, really, really well. So I think that's why traditionally we've used Larry is because he knows these rates. So we're getting ready to go through a rate change basically because not a rate increase, but a rate change because of the portfolio. And I believe Larry or Guernsey are probably better situated because of just, they have to know the rate structures. And those are very, very complicated rate structures through Hoosier. I mean, that's my 2 cents. The main thing in this line item here is the scope.
Yeah, to approve the scope of the
That-
8 items that are listed.
Why not just check? I'm the new,
Sure.
why not look into seeing somebody else just to double check and check again?
I'm agreeing.
We have to, we have to bid out everything. What I'm saying is I can't bid it out unless I have here's what you need to go do. So that's why the scope here is what's critical.
But what I got from Jeff was we're not going to bid it with Larry Feltner, or you don't want to.
no, I'm fine with you bidding it. I just don't want to go in with this scope says Larry Feltner of Prime Group. And you go down to recommendations, commit to Prime Group. I do not support either one of those statements. I'm fine with Larry quoting the job.
Okay.
But if I ask for a motion to approve the scope, it doesn't list Larry specifically in the scope.
But the
Rate consultant sits off.
Yeah.
It sure does. So if you would take off the rate consultant, Larry Feltner of Prime Group, and the recommendation number 1, I could support it.
So just 1 through 8 at the top, right, Jeff, under scope?
No, you can do the project goals and outcomes.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just saying from my standpoint, what I need to go bid is 1 through 8.
And that's what I was just referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the 1 through 8.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. My issue was just committing to Larry Feltner tonight.
Also, from the last meeting, I was asked to contact Larry about training, and he did get back with me. He says he's available July 5th through the 16th and or the 29th and 30th of July. If that's something you wish to continue with or not, I figured I would.
Does IEC offer that training?
They don't.
I don't.
Any of these reg consultants will.
And that's part of it. Whoever we choose, then we have them do the training session.
That's fair.
So they have to be Larry Feller. Right.
Right. The only question I would have with that is, do we need the training to know what we want our scope to be?
Well, if that's the case, we shouldn't even be voting on this tonight.
Like I said, I'm fine with whatever, but I can't go bid it until you give me what to bid. And we got to get in the queue soon or we're going to be behind the buck.
Now repeat what you just said. Defining the scope.
Do we need the training to be able to define the scope? I mean, I'll speak for myself, and I think I can probably speak for Clay here too, that we're not real comfortable yet with what that all means. I would like training personally. I don't really care who teaches me. I just want somebody to teach me.
But I do agree that we need to do something very quick to get somebody in the queue.
So if that's our scope, can we get quotes on that?
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys approve, all you're saying is this is what we're going to go quote. I don't know that you're approving the scope. Maybe we should use different language here. You're saying this, Brett, go bid this. And you all, it's really a discussion more than it is a motion, right? Do we all agree? I mean, we can go through these one by one, but do we all agree this is what we think is going to be included in the next cost of service study? Because there's some big ones in here, right? I mean, when we talk about
Well, I think on number 3, we talked to do block pricing or billing versus changing out my KVA transformer size.
so what, evaluate impact of creating another class to segment. Yeah, I mean, that's an option. I think that allows us to do that though, Jeff. Really what we're saying here is
This is going to change though, too, as we go through this.
No, and I agree. My biggest thing was committing to Larry Feltner
I
tonight.
think this gives you a basis.
The scope's pretty broad,
it is. They're
correct?
It's going to
I
change.
mean, the scope's broad enough and, maybe it is, I was just considered like to being an auditor. Maybe it's good to change.
But let's say we, again, my only thing is depending on what we actually are asking them to do is how they're going to build their bid. Right?
Just use these 8.
You guys good with that? I don't think I need a motion or anything. I just need some guidance on. I mean, these 8 things are what we're saying we're going to do. Yeah, we can change, but the cost is going to change. Which is fine. I mean, if you remember the last time we went through the cost study, we changed.
Last time we didn't really, like number 6, we didn't get to that. I don't know if it was in the scope. We were going to do that on that. We said we were going to, so that was I'm fine with it.
As I said, I think it's a good start.
Everybody good with these 8?
How many are you going to send it to?
However many you want. Probably. I don't know. You tell me. It doesn't matter to me. They're all going to be within very close to each other.
Maybe send it to the 5 listed in the email.
I'm good with that.
Unless somebody has any additional.
Where did the 5 come from?
Research that I did
But from where?
online,
You just
other REMCs.
Googled it.
All 5 of those are I've met everyone. I've met a representative from every one of those. They're very, very,
So you're comfortable getting a bid from all.
very comfortable with going to any of those companies.
Everybody good with that?
Yes, I'll make the motion to do the scope for those 8 items if I need to.
I don't even know that I can, honestly, Jeff, if you guys are good with it, I'll go.
And we're
I'll
gonna,
use these 8 and bid it across those.
those 5.
5.
I'll make sure everybody's good with that.
It doesn't hurt to do more. You don't want to go with them, we don't have to.
Anything else about the scope?
Sorry.
Anybody, it's wrong.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Excuse me, Megan. All right, let's go to the next topic. It has to do with the community trust. And I believe Suzanne and Carl, you are going to, or you did change?
I will let you know for Friday. She's on a nonprofit that has received, on a board that's received funding before. We just want to make sure it wasn't a conflict of interest with either one. I told her she could probably abstain from the vote if she,
There's a form she can fill out and she just,
and not necessarily that not nonprofit would be up for it, but if it is, she want to make sure she was not.
it's not
And it-
involved.
Okay. I will email everyone by Friday with that confirmation then.
Okay. She wasn't involved.
I told her I would double check.
Are you, Carl?
I've got one. Do we need more than one person?
No, it's appointed.
I went through 5 or 6. So I got Pat Hahn.
You guys want to go ahead and make a motion and approve that tonight?
We can do that and then we can, when do they meet next? Is it August?
August. Honestly, Suzanne, if you get that name, I think we can do this through email.
Okay.
Hey, Brett, quick,
Yes,
can you hear me?
yes.
I cannot recall if there's a stipulation about, if you're related to someone on the trust committee, but Sue Hahn would be sister-in-law to Pat Hahn, I believe. She is currently on the committee, and we'll have to check the bylaws. I can't recall.
Sister-in-law. Sue from down at New Point?
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the other one's down at South.
So why don't you just pending verification of,
Look again.
We can find, no, we'll find that out. Okay, let's just vote
Yeah,
next.
we'll have to check the bylaws real quick, but.
Okay, so if we have,
let's just vote. Yeah, we'll check though, Carl. That, or if we find out and Suzanne gets hers and then you get confirmation, we can do it now too.
okay. Yeah, we can just do it. Three or more. All right, the next item on the agenda included the educational piece. That we want to make certain everybody has read it. Ready to get through it?
Article 2 was another really good one, I thought, as far as kind of something that came out of the Texas deal, was this whole deregulation thing. So I thought that was a great article describing that. And then Article 1 talks about this whole mail rate hike. And again, we really don't know specifically how that's going to affect our budget at this point.
But that's going to affect the end of August.
Yeah.
Been approved yet.
Is that right?
It's not approved.
Okay.
They've taken it to the
That's
ERC,
right.
but it's not been approved.
Got it.
We want that process.
Well, it should be in the next month.
Okay, which would still,
Yeah, the NISD has been communicating with me of how that will impact, but it's not approved yet.
yeah.
It may not actually happen.
Anybody have any other? None. All right, let's go to the next topic, the line extension true up policy.
review. I know we discussed this last month as well. And we've been given a month, I think, to kind of think about things and go over it. So Greg, do you want to kind of, the main thing here is I put in a red line of the rules and regs, and it's as simple as just striking that language if it's something that we want to do. Other than that, the memo kind of explains what we talked about last month.
I don't know why we would change it.
I mean, I just really, the reasons are, I captured them on here. It's all about, in my opinion, the member relation issue, right? So you're asking 30 months to go back and ask for money. There's a ton of overhead. We have basically a meeting that we dedicate to going through. The way our work order system works is everything gets thrown into the work order, but then we have to pull certain things out, like secondaries part rates, charge that out. So there's a lot of manual work that has to get done. To me, it's again, you go and ask a member 30 months after construction to tell them they owe you another $2,000 or whatever it is. It puts us in a terrible spot.
But if we took out all of the additional overheads that we're adding in, wouldn't all this cost come down considerably?
The overheads that are added in are overheads that are actual costs. Those overheads are calculated yearly and put in. So they are actually costing us for that work. In other words, it's not don't mix up overheads with profit.
But if they don't do that at line extension, we still pay those overheads
No.
on labor?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we would still have to pay the lineman's wages if that's what we're asking. I guess it's who pays for that, right? In other words, if we're doing work for Dale, because Dale wants a service upgrade, somebody's got to pay them.
If it's a service upgrade.
Okay, service upgrade's bad.
Well, but that's where I'm saying, if you know how to play the game, you can get a lot of this stuff free. What I want to do is simplify it, make it consistent for everyone.
I'm up for the whole true up afterwards. No one does. Duke doesn't do it. None of the co-ops around us do it. They calculated at the beginning, estimated usage based upon real data. In other words, you're going in and asking how many motors do you have? How many AC units do you have? We use comps. So in other words, if you're building a restaurant, for instance, we have a very good understanding of what that restaurant usage is going to look like. So we use a comp model to build that. We typically, the only problem you usually have the difference in the estimated construction cost is the fact that if we hit a rock, let's say to build an A2 takes 2.5 hours. Carl's having it done and it takes 6 hours because we hit a rock and we had to pull out the rock auger. That's a big difference in cost when someone that didn't hit a rock would have the exact same thing. This simplifies it completely by just saying, we're going to use the estimates, the same thing the IURC supports, the same thing Duke does, same thing that all of our surrounding co-ops do. Estimate it, get a good estimate what the revenue is based upon. In other words, someone can't come in and say, I'm going to put 15 grain bins up with, we have to talk through that, and we have to make sure that what we're being told, we do comps and do all those things. We estimate it up front. We charge them innovative construction, and it's done. So it takes out all the work afterwards and the bad situation that we're usually put into.
So on the 4 bullet points, the member relation, which I'm 110% all for member relation, but it's not like a member can say, well, I'm mad at you, REMC, I'm going to jump ship and go to Duke. They can't say that. It's not like going from one competitor. So if we take that item out of there. And the administrative burden, I mean, how many hours are we talking? Are we short-staffed? Is it burning that they're not able to do their full-time jobs with that?
It definitely burns up. We could be doing other things value added for sure. And I would say it takes, I mean, I'd be really estimating, we have a monthly meeting that's usually an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it includes Chris Galloway, myself, Jenny, Matt, and Pat, and sometimes Eric Ewing to get together and reconcile the work order. Then it takes Pat going out, talking to the member. You know, we'd kind of do a mid or after construction, a midway point, and then at the end. It just simplifies all that. And there's not a lot of benefit of doing it. That's why no one else does it.
The member relations piece is big.
Huge.
I agree, but I think making a decision, members' relations, you can't go to another competitor for income. So I feel like that part of it should almost be, I'm not arguing with it. I just don't think that should be at the number one.
So I've been on the receiving end of some of those phone calls when you tell somebody, hey, by the way, we've got this, you're gonna owe another.
But I think number two is the main, is the members' understanding regarding when they go into it.
Well, we went through this. We tried to, and we forgave one because it wasn't communicated that they weren't meeting their targets, and it caused a huge amount of heartburn.
I think number two is the most.
And that's why we changed the process.
So we communicated halfway through, and we haven't even let that work.
And that's not, I mean, I think number two is member understanding more than member relation and the admin burden.
It's a problem though.
And I'm not saying it doesn't need addressed. I'm saying I don't have enough information to make a good decision. I would like to see at least 5 years worth of data on members, revenue, expense. And I still struggle with charging an upcharge for either labor or material.
It's not an upcharge. It's overheads.
I look at it as an upcharge.
Isn't that with an overhead? Isn't that just, doesn't that IRC guidelines?
Yeah, but you have to.
Yeah.
But we don't borrow from our US.
On those work orders listed, what years are those? Are those all 2021? Are they a variety going back
Those 8,
5 or 6 years?
Suzanne, those 8 are kind of a mix.
Could we get what year those are? I mean, just out of curiosity.
I can find out.
Can we just get everything for the last 5 years put into a spreadsheet?
Yeah. I think it's basically going to tell you the same thing. I mean, we can do that.
Mine.
Well, it would at least give me data to make a good decision with.
When did you forgive the last ones? What year was that?
We're back in
When you first came?
17. Yeah, I think
Because these would be everybody since,
17 was the big one.
yeah.
Well,
These are everybody since we forgave all the rest. This is,
it's not every single one of them though.
no, but this was the sampling of people. So it would have been from
It's
17.
2017 and forward.
Yeah.
In 4 years, there's only been 8. No, that's
It's a sample.
It's a sample.
sampling. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, it took us like 3 weeks to put this together. It's very extensive to try to get through these work orders and pull out the data you need. That's the truth. You know, and there's not much you can do. I can't estimate what ground conditions are going to be. And that's.
it shouldn't take that long. It's all right on the work order. The information is just putting it into a spreadsheet.
That work order right there took us probably 2 hours to create.
So we don't have a work order completed for every job.
We have a work order completed and it includes all secondary, which we don't charge. It's in rates. So if I printed this out,
Again?
so in other words, anytime we capitalize, let's say we're doing a job, let's say, anything that we capitalize on that job has to go into the work order so you can capitalize it. Right? So there are things that are in rates for that job. So secondary is everyone gets a transformer, everyone gets a meter, and everyone gets secondary. It's part of rates. So you can't double charge that. So what you have, but it has to be part of the work order so that you can capitalize it. So here's what ends up happening is you have to go into that work order, take out every bit and piece that is in rates, which is transformers, secondary, meter, all those things that are part of rates. You got to take all those out. And then you got to go through and say, okay, they constructed an A2, which typically per our times in our accounting system takes 2.5 hours. It took them 6 hours. Now I got to go ask Pat, Eric, the crew possibly, why did it take 8 hours instead of 2.5 hours? well, we hit a rock and we had to pull a rock. And I always use that example. It's not always that. It could be ground conditions. It could be a bunch of different stuff. So now you got to pull all that out of it. So it's not as easy as just hitting print.
Why would you be pulling any of that out?
Because we don't believe, because if we don't, let's say those two get the exact same job done, but on Carl's, we hit a rock and we had to pull out a rock auger. When those two, his would be a lot cheaper than Carl's because Carl's, we hit a rock.
You just said that was the reason of charging them more.
Because they hit a rock and
Or
we pull that out of the work order, is what I'm saying. So in other words, we don't want to charge Carl any more than what they're the same work.
And that's where I want to get to, where everything's consistent. I really do. I just know that we had a member this past summer, had a pole moved, was initially told $5,500 and he complained and he got it to 21.
That's not true how it went down, though.
Well, there's some truth to that. But again, those are the kind of things, I think there were flaws in our systems on how we were charging people.
In that specific instance, the scope changed.
Okay,
That's not,
let's use the other example of the dairy then, on the revenue generated. Revenue generated is total payment minus power cost, right? So that
payment minus power cost.
is revenue. Any credit over the cost of power is revenue, correct?
Yes, sorry.
And I would like to put that in a spreadsheet for the last 5 years and just see the comparison
For which one?
for all of them for the past 5 years.
Isn't that what this is? For these 8, I guess. That's what this is, the spreadsheet.
I would like to see them all, please.
We do have a couple cases coming up, so I'm going to follow the process and charge the members. Is that okay?
That's what our bylaws and rules are right now.
Yes, the rules, yeah.
When are they coming up?
It's this month, yeah. It's not a whole lot of money, but I'm telling you, it will, it's definitely will be in here.
Have there been communications with them throughout the process, so they're aware that at the end of this month is true up?
Yep.
And that's what we tried to establish last time, so nobody would be blindsided.
I don't think it's the blindsidedness. It's the fact that it's 30 months ago.
No. Before it was blindsided because there was no communication going from 0 to 30.
I think,
And that's why we changed it.
I think we were negligent on the interim communications. Correct. 30-month period of time.
We didn't follow up. Now, there is a contract. They signed a contract.
No, but we talked about that and that's why we made the changes before was so they would understand and it wouldn't be after 30 months.
I've got to ask the rest of the board though, do we need additional time to go through this or? Or
So I'm going to start charging the ones that we need to charge. Because we haven't charged. I mean, they're basically everything that has required charge was earlier than when we did that. So these are all, everyone else has been basically credited at that point. So we will be charging members quite a bit on some of them probably coming up.
Do you have any indication at this point in time that that's in fact going to occur? I mean,
Yeah,
you know that.
And they have a contract saying in 30 months.
it isn't a legal thing. It's a member relation thing, for sure.
But they received documentation knowing in 30 months.
They've received we gave them a contract at the beginning and then we followed up basically saying this is what could or couldn't happen. Legally, we're fine. I mean, there's a contract in place. There's been communication. Those members will be in here and they have in the past.
It's been a perpetual problem.
Mhm.
Jason, do you need more time?
I don't know.
Dale?
Well, I was just going to suggest that to Jeff's point about being consistent, if we get to a situation where somebody's going to pay or needs to pay X amount of money, I mean, we as a board can't then acquiesce and say, well, on this particular case,
That's my fear, because now we're finally getting.
I mean, it's going to be all or nothing. I mean, regardless of who, regardless of when, if we stay where we're at, then, you know, circumstances are not going to allow us to give someone a discount and not give someone else a discount. I don't.
What do you, it's either you're saying, if you stick with the policy, you're sticking with the policy.
You better stick with the policy. And if somebody comes in here and it's X amount of money and they're really, really upset, and somebody else comes in and, you know, whatever the case is.
I mean, we'll
instantly apply it. Oh, I know you.
handle the situations. I'm just saying, this is the time, you know, we brought this last month up because we're getting close to that time that we're gonna have to start charging folks. Something that we've really never charged in the past. We've never collected on because we forgave the first ones and then we changed the process and then they haven't come back up. And I'm fine with it either way, honestly.
Yeah, and I'm not.
It just simplifies it.
I'm not worried about you handling a crystal pen. That's not what concerns me. I go back to the point Jason's making, that I think the perceived, I don't want to say inequity, but problems it's going to cause over PR standard.
This is the common denominator. Line extension.
It is.
So based on the 8 you gave us, 2,200
Let me go back.
is overall above what would have been charged, correct? So that's, you're looking at 275 each for those individual members. You're talking $275 for each of those members they would have had to pay extra.
Correct.
And they have a contract saying 30 months from now, you may have to pay the difference, which is averaging 275 based on those 8 you just exhibit, those 8 members.
Because that $2,100, that $2,200 is a net number, right?
Correct.
I mean,
It's the whole thing.
It's the net, yeah.
That's all.
The net.
You're talking $275 that a member may or may not have to pay and has a legal contract 30 months ago saying that they may or may not have to pay the difference.
But it's not, if you look at the specific, that's an average.
That's an average.
Member number 2 would have had to pay 3,500, Suzanne.
Right.
Not, what do y'all know you're talking about?
Remember two.
I just want to make sure that we are, okay, I was looking at the total.
That is the average, but that's the individual case is what would.
Okay. I was taking the average by the 8 examples shown to make, just to my mind, saying maybe there's more information needed.
But to your point, I don't know how much staff time it took to get that $275 if you're averaging them. If we're spending a lot of staff time to get to $275, let's roll on.
Fair.
I
I mean, that's the crux of why we brought this in. We're spending more money trying to reconcile everything
And you're making people mad.
yeah, very big time.
So
It's very pro member. I mean, this is like,
Unless you're the member to get a refund. It's very pro. I mean,
but those folks that
but in
are
the net.
under contract right now,
Yes.
yeah, but stay under, if they get a credit, they will
Yes.
still receive their credit.
yeah,
They will
we can't,
not be billed.
correct,
Right?
If you don't bill the others, then you overcharge them.
just like we do on rates, right? There's people that are above the average, there's people that are.
Say that again if you don't.
Oh,
No, I'm just saying, you're penalizing the people that gave you accurate numbers up front.
I'm not following that.
No.
But he's saying, but if you overestimated your usage,
Then that's on you and you should pay the difference.
Yeah, but it's usually not it's from my perspective on these, that's not usually the case. And it's all over the board, so you can't say exactly what it is, right? In other words, if it was as simple as your estimates are off, go fix it, Brett. That'd be simple, but it's all over the board.
That's the REMC.
The net through the REMC is immaterial, and it's costing us more to go through and its member relation, which is a my opinion, something that we need to be cautious of.
I'll still toy with the idea of a motion.
okay, how about this? What if the 30, or not 30, the people who are currently under a 30-month agreement ride that out. No matter how it lands, whether they owe us or we owe them, we ride that out. And because I think that was your point. Why are you going to pay someone back and not collect from the others, correct?
Right.
Okay, so what if you ride that out and then from whatever day forward, there is no true up anymore?
Can we get the past history though, too? I am not opposing to what you're saying tonight. But I would like to see more data than just 8 out of 14. I want to see all 14. I actually want to see 5 years worth of data.
We don't have 5 years. This process hasn't even been implemented.
Would you say 2017? So 4 years.
No, you
I
have
think the
true ups. Go ahead.
I'm guessing, I'm speaking for Crystal maybe, but I'm guessing that what you're asking for is not as easy as sometimes we think it is. You know, hit the buttons and here it is. So are we talking
I don't actually.
8 hours?
This
I don't actually do this.
This took us 2 to 3 weeks to put together right here. The data that's behind this is extraordinarily complicated.
This is Jenny and Chris Galloway.
And that's exactly why we pulled 8. Otherwise, I would have given one to you. And we can, I'm not saying we can't.
Would it be to get the years those 8 are exempt? You know, if there's one from each year, is there?
I can get the years. That's not, no issue at all.
How can we do a true up without that data on the other 6?
Well, that's what we're saying. We don't want to do the true ups anymore.
But we should have done it for the last 15, actually 28 months.
And 90% of those, like I said, the reason this is being brought up now is because it's the first time where we actually have one that owes us.
Yeah, but to me, that's a spreadsheet that you plug in and you're tracking consistently for the entire 30 months. There should be data for all 14 active.
There's not.
You're not compiling that until the end,
No, we are compiling at least the,
midway point, because you're having a conversation with them.
I mean,
Why wouldn't you be compiling it monthly? And you just maintain a spreadsheet and it's real simple.
What if we don't pass it?
what I'm telling you is it's real. This took 3 weeks. That's completely real.
Again, to me, that's a problem. It should be a simple process that you just update monthly on 14.
I know that Jenny tracks their revenue monthly.
And that's all you would be tracking because you already had your expense up front. So the information has to be there.
But I think the difference is with the work orders, and again, this is just what I've learned from sitting in some of these meetings. When the work order is closed out, it has a number. So let's just say $50,000
Right.
is what it took. That's just what they left it as. So if you want to get down to the nitty gritty of what did it actually cost, then you have to go in and pull out all of these other parts.
But that should be done when the work's completed. That shouldn't be done 15 months later.
Right,
If this wasn't passed, we would have to have record of who owes us and who doesn't.
right.
Because if this doesn't get passed, we would need that documentation of who is getting a credit and who.
What's that maybe forgiven and the ones that haven't?
Now, I think these are all people that were after.
That's what we were told last month. This was 8 of the 14.
These were the ones
So
that
if we get
we're
all,
gonna have to either charge or we're gonna.
how's that gonna help us make a decision on
It's going to
this?
end up being the same.
What are we looking for?
Fair and consistent.
And if we make them write out their contract, they're doing what we asked them to do.
And that's what I'm saying. If you,
But that's what I'm saying. If we just let these ones that we currently have under, let's let them ride out just like we all agreed. And then that's gonna be fair.
And then going
And
forward,
then going forward,
I could see if we
They
could.
don't know the other 6, whether they do have a credit or not.
but why does it matter? We're gonna ride it out like we all agreed anyway.
again, it's, and maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but this should be a system that's updated monthly. And at the end of 15 months, you know.
But that's their problem. My point.
But if that is, then we have 14 examples sitting here and we've got examples
We
from.
need them.
I want to be consistent is where I'm at.
I know that's.
Maybe
why
I'm wrong.
offering that we do the ones that are under contract like we all agreed to do. Ride those 30-month agreements out. And then it's all fair. So it doesn't really matter if member A owes $1, member B owes $2 or $1. It doesn't matter.
And as of when we pass this, I come in and say, I'm going to have a massive amount of consumption. And so my.
That's on you.
No, but I say that. So my portion is very minimal.
And I get to the end of the 30 months, I didn't use any of it. But I got my system free.
Do we vet any of that information?
Yeah, it all is.
I mean, it's not just an
I don't
arbitrary
think that
number,
you're gonna
right?
be able to, I mean,
I think they're, well, again,
because you're purposely trying to screw the RMC is what you're saying, that member.
yeah. If they know how to do it.
You really think that people know how to do that? If you tell Brian Keith, I'm gonna put in, I don't know, I'm just asking. I'm just asking.
And again, I just would like more. And again, if you 7 vote for it, then I'm overruled.
What's the vetting process for that information when a member comes in?
So we'll go in and ask for drawings and stuff like that. You're gonna have to, I mean, the last one we did, we sat down with them. We went over exactly what bins they're putting in, when they're putting them in, what horsepower motors they have in. Sometimes actually members will have some of their equipment sitting there. We can take pictures of nameplates, but there is a vetting process. Now, is it 100%? No.
But under that scenario, we're gonna oversize everything, so the project's gonna cost you more money, so why would you do that? As the member? We're gonna put
I
in.
don't have a good answer for you, Jason.
What's the negative if they do it? For them?
They're
They
gonna
just
pay a
gotta
lot
have
more,
one.
but they're gonna pay a lot more upfront. They gotta pay for all that we put in.
Correct.
Minus.
So if someone, here's a way of putting it. Like, so if someone tells me they're gonna put in 15 grain bins, I gotta put in a transformer that's 5 times bigger than one if they only have 1 grain bin. So their project cost is gonna be really, really high. The revenue is gonna be really, really high, right? And then let's say at the end, they don't end up doing it, right? So they're only hurting themselves at the beginning. It all kind of equals out.
They'll pay more upfront, less on the backside.
Correct. Whereas if you're doing a true up, it incentivizes you to
Be honest.
be honest. But there's a reason every other co-op around doesn't, and it's because of all this work and the nasty spot you're put in afterwards. We floated this around for 2 months because honestly, I can argue both sides of this one. You definitely can. I tend to lean pro member if you can throw it. That's why we put this out. I can probably spend the time and pull more data. I don't think it's going to tell you a different picture. It didn't the last time we looked at this. Back in 2017, when we forgave all those, at the end of the day, it was basically a wash.
Yeah, but it turned out there was a huge difference in revenue.
But how was that fair, what we did then?
I don't know that it was.
Because
I believe there was a member that, do what?
I would argue that it wasn't fair. It was fair for that one member, but it wasn't fair for the other 6,500. I mean, we made a judgment call, okay? But I want to get out of that situation because, and that's why I think that's kind of, I'm with you though. I get it. If you cost it, you should be responsible for it, right? I'm following that. But I fielded too many phone calls over this. Get your estimates accurate up front.
I think if that happens, it all goes away.
That's right.
But that's, I think, where we're lacking. The estimates up front, what we're charging.
The estimates are usually on. It's we hit a rock or a ground condition.
I thought you said we took that out.
We do, but we actually have to go through in other words, our estimate could be 2 hours. It takes us 6. We do remove it afterwards. You are correct.
So then that doesn't matter.
We're going to remember that.
What? We're going to eat it anyhow.
Yeah. So one thing I think we can do is, we'll try to put some more data around this.
How often does this happen?
You get about 3 to 4 a year.
Out of,
We get like
3 or 4 line extensions a year.
okay, and
Period.
how many of them are the problem? A problem? On average, how many we got?
Well, here's 8 of them. So the problem is going to be member 1's going to be happy. Member 2's not. Number 2's going to be really upset. Number 3 is going to be happy. Number 4 is going to be upset. So 1, 2.
So 3 out of the 8 owe us money.
Yes. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. That's half.
50% of them are gonna be upset.
4 people.
Until you get that one. It's big. This has caused a lot of heartburn. A lot of heartburn. And it sounds like for you guys too, I don't know.
I would say the biggest thing I would gather is if we go through all the work, we better charge people. Because otherwise, I personally don't want to do a bunch of work and well, we forgave it. That would bother me. Maybe if, I have no problem doing all the stuff if we follow through.
And that's what I'm saying. We changed policy. So we would be fair when we would communicate.
I mean, we changed the policy to communicate. That's really what we did. We said at the end, midway, that doesn't help. You were going to owe me $2,000.
Are we keeping better track currently of these
Yes.
than in the past?
Oh, yeah.
If we want to say, can we see everything? 2020, you can give us a list.
Aren't they on here? We have some on here.
There doesn't,
I don't
it
think
does not fit in
they're
here.
The point is the more data we bring, it's going to tell you the same thing it did back in 2017. It was a wash.
It's not a wash because 4 people owe us and we owe 4 people. So that's fair. They pay us, we pay them.
But that's as of right now. A lot of these people haven't reached their 30 years. So at 30 years, or 30 months, I mean, it might be, there could be a change. They might stop using today.
That data.
Never use another kilowatt hour.
The other option is we just write it out and see, the problem with that is if we make a change after we start charging, it's going to look.
No, if we do that, make that change, then we go back and pay the members back.
We can do that. Right. We can do that.
There's a list of them on your. These are commercial line extension true up schedules on your call to order on your metrics dashboard.
That's current.
Mm-hmm. That's what it says. Number 7, B, metrics dashboard. I don't know what page number this is. It's towards the back. At least the time schedule's there. There's no dollars on there, but.
I can pull these and tell you they're just not through their, it's still going to be based upon estimates.
Dashboard of it, B. You have to flip down several pages. It's after the accounting and finance tab, X1, commercial line extension true ups.
Finding them right.
Dale's got it up. It looks like this. I don't know if you see, it's got 2 red tabs on the top.
Can you lead us one more?
Yeah, number 7, CEO update.
I don't have a,
D.
I don't have a,
Metrics.
oh, it's just in our regular meeting.
Metrics
Yeah.
dashboard.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the dashboard.
I was too, Mike.
We
interpret.
It's on, I think he's been putting it on there every month.
Yeah.
Gotcha, sorry.
So outside of some time that's involved in doing it, person's here and they can put together this information. If I'm understanding everything. This information be put together to be in front of all of us to look at, to find out the information we need for the members, correct?
That's what we did.
Individually.
Yeah.
The information is put together so we can.
That's what we were doing with the 8. That's what we did. We just sampled it.
But if I heard you correctly, those 8, that's just the 8 of how many, 14?
14.
So we managed to put over half of it together, 14. That was how long I'm saying, when I ask somebody for information, I just want the information. If it's what it takes to get it to, if I'm looking out for the members that we represent, then let's get the information put together.
We can definitely put that information together. I think we did in 17 and it told us it was a flood. It was again, this one
Yeah,
showed.
4 years ago.
Yeah, we can put the information together.
We're sitting here, just get the dang information put together to help these do it.
You said these are coming up, some of them are coming up pretty close. Have you formed?
This one though, Carl.
This one, okay. Have you, say it's 30 months, okay? In 15 months, did you inform how this is going along, or did you even talk to the members, say, hey, okay?
That's what we just did one with, what's his name?
Okay, inform them how much is going on, what's going on, hey, this is how this is working.
Correct.
Keep them up to date on it.
Correct.
Was the whole process we changed, that you have a halfway point, you tell them where they're at, so they know, and then when you get to the end, it is what it is.
I sort of like Jeff's idea where we just let this ride, and if we make if you all make a decision, let's change it, then we just go back and edit that number. I mean, I kind of like. I mean, there's not that many, so yeah, we can kind of ride this out and just see what. It's not like we have to go have 10 discussions that are not going to be good discussions. It's a tough one because you can, I could argue either way.
And just keep them all informed as they go on. Halfway through and then 3/4 way through, say, look, this is going to happen.
We do at the end of construction, halfway through, and then.
What's the form of that communication?
Pat just calls them. It depends. So if we call them and they get angry, then we go out and actually meet them.
We have the option now to put that on their bill as a comment.
Yeah, we possibly could.
So you could almost do it monthly and keep them updated on where they were throughout the whole 30 months.
I think we could do that. Yeah.
It's a good idea.
You
Very good idea.
starting when?
The entire 30 months. It's a comment on their.
Is our billing capable of that, Crystal? Great idea. Add it to the billing, so they know every month, 3 months. We can add it to the bill.
And they're looking at their bill.
We got new bills.
Have it in front of them.
That's still, it keeps it right.
Put it on a piece of paper and separate bill.
All right, we got a lot of conversations going on. I think we've had a good discussion on this, so as of right now, going forward, maybe
Get more data through these real life examples.
maybe Crystal could just see if there's talk more, I guess, next month or whenever we need to.
You want to wait a couple months, let somebody go through and just see?
Well, we'll see.
We good with that? Anybody else? Any comments?
All right, item number 13, the election process follow-up. I believe last month, there was probably quite a bit of discussion within the board meeting. Kind of, how do we go forward after the last election? From the standpoint of, heard from the nominating committee and the CEC and what have you. So I think Jeff, you brought up some things last month regarding this.
Well, and I'm not prepared to talk about it, but one of the things I brought up was involving the nominating committee, the outgoing and the oncoming, getting their input on how we should run the election.
Because I know there is, I think Rachel signed something on some surveying as well, maybe.
Well, okay, survey is a whole nother thing. I had a member who I listened to do a live survey this past weekend. I had no idea we were doing that. So when we do these surveys, as a director, I'd like to know what the survey is up front before we start and what we're hoping to get out of it. One of the things that the member was offensive to was they're asking him how much he makes.
Yeah, we do that so that we can try to that, or actually, Rachel, you want to?
Yeah, but I'm saying, I don't think that that's, we're talking member relationship. I don't think that's pertinent information.
Well, it is when you're trying to capture a population, right? So there's no way to statistically understand exactly what population you're looking at unless you get some of those types of information.
What was the survey for?
I don't know which one he's talking about.
It was a live survey where there was a lady reading the question.
But do you know what the subject?
A lot of it, I caught the tail end, and at the tail end, it was around solar. Would you be interested in community solar projects?
This was our REMC.
That wasn't us. We're not doing anything around that.
They said it was your local Decatur. I'm almost certain. I need to verify, but I'm almost certain it said it was for Decatur County REMC.
Doing theirs right now.
Could be.
Could be. But they didn't come. I'm almost certain they said on behalf of Decatur County REMC.
But most of the reason they're asking specific, and we could do some education on that. The reason they're asking specific questions about what you make and all those, and by the way, and anytime they ask you that, they're going to say you don't have to answer that one. The reason they're trying to do that is because they're trying to catch every demographic. If you do a survey and you're only catching females, well, then it's not a good survey. Right? But that's what you're trying to.
I guess my part is, as a director, I'd like to know before these start and what the goal is.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I'd like to know what the surveys are and what the goal is, what they're hoping to get out of it.
But that wasn't us, right?
That could have been Touchstone. I don't know.
The survey that you must be referring to is the customer satisfaction survey. It was conducted in early June for all Hoosier co-ops. And my apologies that we didn't tell the board that was going on. And yes, they do ask demographic information to gather information from members about, and if they don't feel comfortable answering, they don't have to. But it's, if they ask what their household income is to gather information about how to market to those sectors. I mean, folks who are in the poverty level are interested in EVs, electric vehicles. So it helps us determine what our demographic is and what programs and services might be well received.
Thanks, Rachel.
So going back to the election process, though, Jeff, I know, I think, as I said, we went to it earlier last month and just briefly talked about it now, but do you have some insight of?
I could put something together if you want me to. I'm better at thinking it, putting it in writing than I am just spur of the moment. I would like everybody to do it though. I'll be glad to do it.
What do you want us to do?
Election process follow-up.
There was some discussion at last month's meeting regarding, coming together, if you will, of how the process occurs. At the end of the day, I mean, it is the directors that make the final decision. They do. If anybody has any insight on bringing up some discussion or what have you, we can certainly do that.
I didn't add anything in 13 because this was Michael's, and I don't.
Well, and I think that my assumption, it was probably related to what was brought up in the meeting last month. So maybe we don't have to do much of anything, but. Okay, we'll go to the next item.
Steve, on that, am I allowed, where is everything on that? On the election? Is it final, not final?
You're talking about the results of the election? Okay, so I believe it was, I have to come up with the specific dates, but there was an email to the CEC committee, which the credentialed election committee, which includes the 5 directors that were not being ready for the election. And so there has been a contest they're contesting, districts 5 and 6, signed by 5 different members. If I'm not mistaken, I think there were 5. And, the process that I understand is that the CEC will have a, meeting. In fact, I think Jeff has already sent an email out, and, there'll be a subsequent meeting with the CEC to listen, I guess, I don't know if anybody's, does somebody come to the meeting or
Yes, I'm going to invite those
Okay.
5 and the CEC group, and I'm going to be reaching out to Aaron this week for legal counsel.
So the email came from the directors that didn't win?
No, the email didn't come from the directors, I think, when it came from 5 members.
On behalf of them? My question is, to those 2 directors, are they aware of what's going on? I mean, I'll be happy to call Jerry St. John right now and find out.
I don't know that.
Has anybody communicated with Jerry St. John that on his behalf, the election is being contested? Because the first communication I got that night was a text from Jerry St. John congratulating me, and I haven't spoken to him since. But is he aware of that? Who was the other, Andy?
Sure.
Or is he aware? Neither one of them obviously are here.
Jerry is aware. I have talked to Jerry. I have not talked to Andy.
Is Jerry supportive of it?
I would say he's supportive, but he is not the one that filed the contest.
Which I'm presuming the bylaws allow a member or members to contest, which I'm not arguing.
I think it's a protest.
You just typically don't see somebody on behalf of somebody else filing a contention. Typical.
Anything else there, Dale?
No, I'm just trying to get clarity.
All right. Brian, nothing for Hometown Energy, correct? We haven't had a meeting. Okay. Still not like it. I'm waiting from him. How about you, Jason? Anything from Hoosier?
No June meeting. I have a finance committee meeting tomorrow.
Okay. So we can, and as far as the IC, we have a June meeting a week from tomorrow. And I can report more next month. Anything from any director regarding training or conferences attended? No one? Anybody have anything else before we?
I do have one question.
Because I have something I need to, on your behalf, but you want to go ahead and bring that up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion. I told you last month I was going to. That we're gonna, on policy 2-7, members attending board meeting, we're going to strike A1, which is the requirement for notification of attendance. The rest of the policy stays intact.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
So we have a first and a second. What policy number is that, Jason?
2-7.
2-7. Anybody need to review it?
The first and 1 just states that it outlines, what you need to do if you're going to plan to do notifying the CEO, blah, blah, blah. Just take out 1.
Okay. Here we have a first and a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You gotta give him a minute.
He did. I didn't hear it.
Brian, you meant to say 4 or yes?
4.
Okay. There's a delay.
Did you have something else?
No.
We're going to do a request here.
Yeah, you want?
I can do it.
Okay.
We don't have anything else. So there's the next board meeting is scheduled for July 22nd. And there's a conflict that day. That's very early in the month to begin with. So if we try to move it before June 20th,
We try to do it before July 22nd.
It's probably gonna get in the way of maybe trying to come up with some financials and things. So, if we're all willing to, maybe have a board meeting the next week on that Thursday, that might work well. Great. So, but we need it to be unanimous. So that's the date, it would be the 29th. July 29th. And if you need to check your calendars after the. I'm just looking to see if anybody has any. Are you good? Well, if we make it, yeah.
Yep, no, that's fine.
All right.
I should be good, to be honest.
You guys want to get back with me just to verify?
I'm gonna have to get back with you. I think.
Okay. Let's, so in fairness.
That's fine.
In fairness, we will.
And well, we can't change it, we don't. I would appreciate it.
If you don't hear from me, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it works fine.
All right,
Take a motion for adjournment.
Moved. Hey, I do have one thing. Is anyone planning on going to, because I don't think I am, but the NRECA Regional 4 meetings, it's in September, the 8th through the 10th. Or it's in where Maryland, maybe. If you are going, there is an early bird special. And it's like $300 more if you go after the early bird special. So if you are thinking about going, I would suggest start looking at that now. We're trying to basically, with my employees, if they don't hit the early bird special, then they're not going.
Okay.
So, because there's like a $300 difference between early bird and late.
What's the date of that? September what?
September 8th through the 10th. I believe it's in, I don't think I'm planning on going, but if anyone else does, just take a look at it, because if you're going to go, you need to get your registration in.
I should have brought it up earlier. It's just a point of clarification. In the previous minutes from last month's meeting, there was an extension granted to Suzanne, Brian, and Jeff for their training.
That is correct.
Requirements. Is there a time, was that a defined period of time, or was?
I believe August the 7th isn't, they're going to do it live again. Then I'll have it completed, I believe. I've got to look at my schedule. I think
I
it's
mean,
August-
that's when they're gonna have.
that's when they're opening them back live. I talked to the gentleman from IEC and then I'll be done with.
But
mine.
I think Dale's question is when do we need to? And I don't think there was a timeline involved.
There's an added schedule to finish, so we kind of,
Just waiting to go back live.
Okay.
wasn't that correct?
You got one scheduled, Jeff?
August the.
I gotta check
6th.
back with Jeannie and make sure.
Okay.
But yes, I had her. So I guess
I think Brian had his last one scheduled, you had your last scheduled, and you had one scheduled.
Yeah. I don't remember specific.
Yeah, Jeannie scheduled my last meeting, so.
All right.
Anything else?
Okay, Jeff had a motion to adjourn.
Take a second. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you. Say.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you.
Oh, I heard my.